In 1623, an English carpenter named Nicholas Owen built rooms that did not exist. He hid entire families inside their own walls so well that some rooms were not found for 300 years. His craft crossed the ocean and never stopped. Number 14 on this list saved more American lives than any law of its time. Number 3 stayed hidden 80 years until new owners found it by accident. Hit that subscribe button. Let us count down the 25 forgotten hidden room tricks families used to disappear inside their homes. Number 25, the hollow newel post. At the bottom of nearly every good staircase built between 1850 and 1920 stood a thick wooden post, the newel, capped with a decorative knob. What most people never knew is that a great many of those posts were hollow and the cap lifted off. Builders left the cavity there on purpose. A family would roll a rolled-up deed, a stack of gold coins, or the paper that proved they owned the land into a tube and drop it down inside the post, then press the cap back into place. Some newel posts had a mortgage button, a small round inlay of bone or mother of pearl set into the top. Tradition held that when the house was finally paid off, the family burned the mortgage papers and sealed the ashes inside that post. A carpenter charged maybe $2 extra to hollow one out in 1890. It was the safest spot in the house, touched by every hand that ever climbed those stairs, opened by almost none. Number 24, the trapdoor under the rug. In farmhouses across Pennsylvania and Ohio, the most valuable hiding place in the home was the one you walked over every single day. A section of the parlor floorboards was cut, hinged, and fitted back so tightly that the seams vanished into the grain of the wood. A heavy braided rug went on top, a chair or a table on top of that. Underneath was a shallow crawl space, sometimes only 2 feet deep, just enough to lower a strongbox, a rifle, or a person down out of sight. The trick was in the fit. A good joiner planed the boards until you could not feel the edge with a fingernail. Families lifted the door with a metal ring that folded flat into a routed groove, so nothing stuck up to catch a broom. A stranger could stand in that parlor, hat in hand, and never suspect that the floor beneath his boots opened like a mouth. Number 23, the false bottom staircase. A staircase is mostly empty air. The space under those rising steps is dead volume, and clever builders turned it into a wall of secrets. Each riser, the vertical board at the front of a step, could be built as a hinged panel or a shallow drawer. You pressed the corner and the whole face of the step swung open to reveal a compartment tall enough for a shotgun laid flat or a stack of banknotes. Fancier homes ran a full hidden closet up under the entire flight, entered through a panel that looked like ordinary wainscoting on the landing. During hard times, families kept the smoked ham and the whiskey in there, away from thieves and from relatives who dropped by hungry. Every day you climbed those stairs, you were walking up the front of a filing cabinet nobody could see. Number 22, the coal chute hideaway. Before oil and gas heat, every city house had a coal chute, a small iron door low on the outside wall where the delivery man shoveled coal down into a bin in the cellar. That black, filthy, forgotten corner became one of the best hiding spots a family had. A false partition of soot-covered board could be stood up a few feet inside the bin, and behind it, in the dark, a person could crouch completely out of sight. No one wanted to touch it. The dust hid the seams, the smell kept people out, and the darkness did the rest. In tenement neighborhoods from Boston to Chicago, families used the space behind the coal to stash a runaway relative, a jug of something illegal, or the family's savings sewn into a rag. The coal man came, dumped his load, and never knew that on the other side of that heap, someone was holding their breath. Number 21, the root cellar false wall. Every rural home had a root cellar dug into the earth, cool and dark, lined with shelves of potatoes, onions, and jars of beans. It was the perfect disguise for something more. A family would build the back wall of the cellar out of a shelf unit loaded with canning jars, then hinge the whole thing so it swung out like a door. Behind it lay a second chamber, dug deeper into the hill. That is where the real valuables went: the cured hams, the rifles, the money. On a Tennessee farm in the 1930s, a second cellar cost nothing but sweat and a Sunday's digging. A man could come down those steps, see nothing but shelves of food, take a jar of preserves, and climb back out, never knowing the wall he leaned against was hollow. Number 20. The closet behind the chimney breast. A large brick chimney takes up a huge block of a house, and the shape it makes as it passes through each floor is never quite square. Builders learned to steal the leftover corners. Where the chimney stepped in as it rose, it left a pocket of space beside it, sometimes 2 or 3 feet deep, hidden behind the plaster. A family would cut a low door into that pocket, papered over to match the wall, and gain a whole standing closet, no floor plan ever recorded. The warmth of the chimney kept it dry, perfect for storing quilts, papers, and anything mold would ruin. Children who grew up in those houses often knew about the chimney closet and kept it secret like a treasure. Grown visitors measured the rooms with their eyes and never noticed that a few feet had simply gone missing beside the fireplace. Number 19. The attic knee wall room. In any house with a sloped roof, the attic walls meet the floor at an angle, and where the roof gets too low to stand, builders framed a short vertical wall, the knee wall, and closed it off. Behind that knee wall ran a long, low triangular void that circled the whole top of the house. Most families forgot it existed or crammed it with junk through a small hatch, but some cut a proper little door into it and made a hidden room in the sky. A child could crawl in and vanish. A trunk of family papers could sit back there for generations. During times of trouble, a person could lie flat in that dark triangle while searchers walked the finished attic 6 inches away and found nothing but boxes. It cost nothing but the labor of cutting one small door, and it gave a family a hiding place that ran the entire length of the roof. First pattern break. Here is where the truth about hidden rooms gets interesting. We think of secret rooms as something out of a movie, a rich man's toy, a mystery novel prop. They were nothing of the kind. For most of American history, an ordinary family's fears were simple and constant. Fire could take everything you owned in an hour. A thief could clean out your cabin while you were in the field. A creditor could seize the house. A person you loved could be hunted by men who called themselves the law. Paper deeds, gold coins, and human beings all shared the same problem. They could be taken. So people who had almost nothing learned to build absence into their homes on purpose. A hollow post, a hinged step, a wall that was really a door. These were not luxuries. They were insurance, written in wood and plaster by people who understood that the most valuable thing a house could offer was a place that could not be found. Number 18, the wardrobe passage. Long before a certain fantasy novel made it famous, real families built passages behind their wardrobes. A tall standing wardrobe, the freestanding closet that furnished bedrooms before built-in closets existed, was heavy, deep, and pushed flat against the wall. Cut a doorway in the wall behind it, remove the back panel, and you created a passage entered by walking through the hanging coats. The clothes brushed your face, and then you were through into somewhere that did not appear on any plan. Families used these to connect a bedroom to a hidden nursery or to reach a stair that let them leave the house unseen. The genius was that the wardrobe still worked as a wardrobe. Anyone could open it, see coats and dresses, and close it again, never pushing past the wool to find the wall was open behind it. Number 17, the hollow window seat. Under the window, in the parlor, or the stair landing, many old homes had a built-in bench with a cushioned top, a window seat where a person could sit and read in the light. Nearly every one was hollow, and the seat lifted up on hinges. That much was ordinary storage, blankets and boots. But the clever families built a false bottom inside so that when you lifted the lid, you saw a shallow tray of ordinary linens. And beneath that tray, if you knew to lift it, lay the real compartment. Deeds went there. A pistol went there. During Prohibition, more than one respectable household kept its liquor there, under the church quilts, in the window seat where the pastor himself might sit. It defeated the casual searcher completely, because a searcher who lifts the lid and sees blankets stops looking. Number 16, the hidden butler's room. In larger homes built around 1900, the service areas, the pantry, the back stairs, the passages the servants used were a maze the family and their guests never entered. That maze hid rooms. Between the kitchen and the dining room ran a butler's pantry, and off of it, tucked behind the china cabinets, builders often left a small windowless room that appeared on no drawing anyone kept. It was meant for silver storage, a place to lock the valuable flatware behind a plain door that blended into the paneling. But because it was already secret, forgotten by everyone above stairs, it became the perfect place to hide far more than spoons. A family could shelter a person in that silver room for weeks, fed through the kitchen, and no dinner guest 20 feet away would suspect the wall had a room inside it. Number 15, the subfloor compartment. In houses raised on brick piers or a stone foundation, there was a gap between the ground and the floorboards, a crawl space that most people ignored entirely. Families turned that neglected gap into a vault. From inside a closet, they cut a hatch straight down through the floor into a lined box built between the joists, waterproofed with tar or lined with tin. Into that box went the things that had to survive fire and flood and thief. The family Bible with the births and deaths written in the front, the cash, the jewelry from a grandmother. Because the hatch sat inside a closet, under shoes and hanging clothes, you had to already be hiding to find it. A fire could burn the house to the sills, and the subfloor box would still be down there in the ashes, cool and closed, holding everything that mattered most. Country families trusted the ground more than any bank, and the ground kept its promises. Number 14, the Underground Railroad hidden room. Here is the trick that saved more lives than any law of its time. Across Ohio, Indiana, Pennsylvania, and up through the border states, ordinary families built rooms into their homes for one purpose: to hide people escaping slavery on their way north to freedom. These were not grand chambers. They were spaces stolen from the bones of a house, a false wall in the cellar entered by pulling out a bin of potatoes, a tiny room under the eaves reached by a hatch inside a bedroom closet, a crawl space beneath the kitchen floor, its trapdoor hidden under the wood box. Families fed the people they hid through gaps in the wall, moved them at night, and risked prison to do it. The builders left almost no records because a written record was a death warrant. Some of these rooms were only rediscovered a century later during renovations, when a homeowner tapped a wall, heard the hollow, and broke through into a space the size of a closet where, long ago, frightened and hopeful people had waited in the dark for a knock that meant it was safe to run again. Those rooms were the most important hidden spaces this country ever built. Second pattern break. Here is something worth sitting with. Every hidden room is a record of what a family was afraid of, and if you learn to read them, an old house will tell you its whole history. A hollow window seat with liquor in it dates the family to the 1920s and tells you they liked to drink and feared the raid. A false cellar wall in a border state farmhouse tells you the people who lived there in the 1850s made a choice, at real risk to themselves, about which side of history they wanted to stand on. A tin-lined box under the floor tells you the family had been burned out once and trusted no bank in town. These homes were not just shelter. They were arguments, made in wood, about what mattered and what could not fall into the wrong hands. When you find a hidden room in an old house today, you are finding the exact shape of somebody's hope and somebody's fear, preserved behind the plaster long after everyone who knew about it was gone. Number 13. The priest hole. The oldest trick on this list crossed the Atlantic from England, where families who practiced a forbidden faith hid their priests inside the walls when the searchers came. Nicholas Owen, the carpenter from our opening, was the master of it, and the craft came to the American colonies with the settlers. A priest hole was a tiny sealed chamber tucked into the thickness of a chimney behind a false hearth or under a stair, with an entrance disguised as ordinary paneling or a hinged floorboard. The person hidden inside might wait for days in a space too small to fully stand or lie down, silent, while men with torches walked the house, tapping walls and pulling up rugs. Owen's rooms were so cleverly built, one inside another, that searchers who found one hiding place assumed they were done and never found the real one behind it. When your safety depends on not being found, you do not build one hiding place. You build a decoy, and then you build the real one behind it. Number 12. The bookcase door. It is the most famous secret room trick of all, and it was real long before it was a cliché. A wall of built-in bookshelves, floor to ceiling, packed with heavy books, is the last thing anyone expects to move. So builders hung an entire section of shelving on a concealed pivot, balanced so carefully that a loaded bookcase swung open at the pull of a single volume or the press of a hidden latch. Behind it lay a study, a strong room, or a stair down to the cellar. The weight was the whole problem and the whole disguise. Nobody suspects a door they cannot imagine lifting. A skilled cabinet maker had to counterbalance the shelves and set the pivot so the books did not tumble when it moved, which is why a real bookcase door was a mark of a serious craftsman and a family with something serious to hide. Push the right book and the wall of your library becomes a doorway. Number 11. The disappearing bedroom. When a family needed a room to vanish entirely, they turned to the fold-away bed, patented in its most famous form around 1900. A Murphy bed folds up into a closet or a wall, and everyone knows that. What fewer people know is that families used the same idea to hide whole rooms. A bed or a whole wall unit folded up flat and sealed a doorway behind it, so a room that existed 1 minute simply was not there the next. Fold the bed down and the door is buried behind the headboard. Fold it up and the wall is blank. In small city apartments, this let a family hide a back room from a landlord counting occupants. The mechanism did double duty. It saved space in a cramped flat, which was its honest job, and it made a doorway disappear, which was its secret one. A neighbor could stand in that studio, certain they saw the whole of it, while a second room sat sealed behind a bed, folded flat against the wall. Number 10. The cellar tunnel to the barn. On isolated farms, the most valuable hidden feature was not a room at all. It was a way out. Families dug tunnels, sometimes just a low crawlway, shored up with timber and stone, running from the house cellar to the barn or the tree line at the edge of the field. In deep winter, it meant reaching the animals without stepping into a blizzard. But everyone understood the tunnel's other purpose. If men came to the front door with bad intentions, the family could go down into the cellar and come up in the barn 100 feet away, saddle a horse, and be gone before the door was forced. The entrance was hidden behind shelving or a stack of firewood. Digging one was brutal work, weeks of it, but a farm that had a tunnel had something no lock could give. It had the certainty that the house was never truly a trap, because there was always a second way out that only the family knew. Number 9. The false chimney chamber. A chimney is a tower of brick with a narrow flue running up its center. The rest of it, the great mass of masonry around that flue, is solid, or so everyone assumes. Builders who knew better left a void inside the chimney stack. A dry, warm, sealed chamber entered through a hearth that swung, an oven that was not an oven, or a panel in the brick face on an upper floor. Because a chimney is the last place a person imagines a room, it was the safest place a family owned. The solid brick swallowed sound, so a person hidden inside could not be heard. Searchers tapped walls and pried at floors, but who taps a chimney? Who imagines that behind the fireplace, a few inches from the flame, there is a room with a person standing silent inside it? The false chimney chamber worked precisely because it hid inside the one part of the house everyone believed was solid all the way through. Third pattern break. Now we come to the golden age of the American hidden room, and it arrived because the government made a drink illegal. From 1920 to 1933, Prohibition banned the making and sale of alcohol, and overnight, millions of law-abiding families became smugglers, brewers, and keepers of secrets. Suddenly everyone had something to hide, and the hidden room trade exploded. Carpenters did a quiet business building false walls and swinging shelves for respectable homes. Families who had never broken a law learned to tuck a bottle into a hollow stair or a nook behind the icebox. The raid could come at any time. A knock, a badge, men pouring your livelihood down the sink. So people built their homes to lie for them. The next 4 entries come straight out of those 13 dry, thirsty, inventive years, when hiding a room was not the hobby of the rich, but the everyday craft of the ordinary American family. Number 8. The hidden bar room. In the finer homes of the 1920s, the hidden bar was a point of pride. Behind a section of paneling in the study, or through a bookcase door, or down a stair disguised as a linen closet, a family built a full room dedicated to the one thing the law said they could not have. Padded chairs, a real bar, glassware, bottles ranged on shelves, and a door that blended into the wall in seconds. The whole point was that a party could be in full swing, and then a warning came, and the room could simply close. Guests stepped out, the panel swung shut, and the study became a study again, nothing but books and a desk, and a man reading by the fire. These rooms are still being discovered today when someone renovating an old house moves a shelf and finds a perfectly preserved speakeasy behind it, glasses still on the bar, waiting for a party that ended 90 years ago. Number 7. The room behind the icebox. Not every family had a study to hide a bar in. Working families got more inventive, and one of the best tricks used the icebox, the heavy insulated cabinet that kept food cold before electric refrigerators. An icebox was bulky, cold, and always sat against the wall, so no one moved it, and no one wanted to reach behind it. Families cut a doorway in the wall behind it, or built a false back into the cabinet itself, opening into a small hidden room or a stair to the cellar. To reach it, you swung the whole heavy cabinet aside on hidden casters or climbed through the cold box, past where the ice block sat. It was cramped, and it worked because a policeman searching a kitchen checks the cupboards and the pantry. He does not empty the icebox and crawl through the back of it into a room he had no reason to believe was there. Number 6. The still room in the attic. Prohibition did not just make people hide liquor, it made them make it. And a home still had to be hidden even more carefully than a bottle, because the equipment was the crime. Families built secret rooms to house the copper still, the mash and the coils, and the attic was the favorite spot. It was far from the street. The heat a still gives off blended with the heat that rises to the top of a house, and the smell, the sweet sour reek of fermenting mash that would give the game away, vented up through the roof where it mixed with the smoke of 100 chimneys. The still room was walled off behind a false partition, reached by a hatch a searcher would take for storage. The whole operation ran above the family's heads in a room that officially did not exist, turning corn and sugar into the family's income while the household below went about its innocent-looking day. Number 5. The disguised storm cellar. 4th pattern break, and it is a big one. On the plains from Kansas to Texas, the storm cellar was not a luxury. It was the difference between life and death when a tornado came for your house. So every family had one, and because every family had one, nobody thought twice about it. That is exactly what made it the perfect place to hide almost anything. The storm cellar was assumed. It was ordinary. It was the one hole in the ground that raised no suspicion at all. Families built false walls into their storm cellars, hiding a second chamber behind the shelves of canned goods and the plank benches where the children sat out the wind. Down there, behind the disguise of an entirely reasonable room, went the valuables, the whiskey, the papers, and in hard and violent times, the people who needed to disappear. A searcher who found the storm cellar felt he had found the secret. He had found only the decoy. A Plains family learned young that the safest room in the world is the one everybody knows about and nobody bothers to search all the way to the back. Number 4. The fallout shelter. In the 1950s and early 1960s, a new fear moved into the American home, and families started building hidden rooms again, this time against the bomb. All across the country, people dug fallout shelters, sealed rooms stocked with canned food, water, blankets, and a radio, meant to keep a family alive through the aftermath of a nuclear attack. Many were hidden on purpose because a family that survived worried about neighbors who had not prepared and might come pounding on the door. The entrance was disguised behind a workshop, under a garage floor, or through a basement closet. Inside, a whole household could seal itself off for weeks in a room stocked like a bunker. Most were never used for their terrible purpose, thank God, and today they turn up under suburban lawns, concrete rooms full of rusting cans and yellowed instructions, a monument to a decade when ordinary families believed they might have to disappear into the ground to survive. Number 3. The room that stayed lost. Some hidden rooms did their job so well that the people who built them died, and the secret died with them, and the room simply waited. It happens more than you would think. A family renovates an old house, taps a wall in a hallway that always felt a little too short, hears the hollow, and breaks through into a room no one alive knew was there. Sometimes it is a Prohibition bar with the glasses still out. Sometimes it is a tiny chamber under the eaves with a child's toy and a name scratched into the beam. Sometimes it is one of those quiet rooms from the years of the Underground Railroad, and the people who open it stand there in the dust, understanding for the first time what their own house had once been part of. These forgotten rooms are the whole point of this list. A hiding place that is still remembered is only half a secret. The best of them were built so well and kept so quiet that they outlived every person who knew and only gave up the secret when a stranger's hammer finally found the wall. Number 2. The safe room. The idea never died. The modern version has a steel door and a phone line, but the safe room is the direct descendant of the priest hole and the false cellar wall, built for the same reason people have always built them, so that when danger comes into the house, there is one place inside it that danger cannot reach. A family retreats into a reinforced room, locks a door that cannot be forced, and waits for help. Everything about it is old. The hidden entrance behind a closet or a bookcase, the disguise that makes it look like an ordinary part of the house, the idea underneath it that a home should hold at least one space that keeps its people even when everything else fails. We put cameras and steel into it now, but a Plains family with a false-walled storm cellar understood the principle 100 years ago. The technology changed. The fear did not. Number 1. The house that was all secret. At the very top of this list is not a single room, but a whole way of building and living that has almost entirely vanished. There were families, and there were houses where the hidden room was not an oddity, but a habit, where secrecy was woven through the whole structure, from the newel post to the attic knee wall. The deeds lived in the hollow post, the money lived under the floor, the whiskey lived in the window seat, the escape lived in the tunnel to the barn, the people who needed protecting lived behind the cellar wall. A house like that was not one building with a secret in it. It was a machine for keeping things safe, built by people who had learned, through fire and theft and law and war, that you cannot trust the world to leave your family alone. So they hid it, all of it. In plain sight, inside the walls, they lived within every day. And then they got a little richer or a little safer, and they stopped. The banks took the money, the insurance took the fear, the secret rooms got filled with junk or plastered over or forgotten, and their children grew up in ordinary houses, never knowing that the walls their grandparents built were once full of carefully hidden hope. Here is the challenge. The next time you are in an old house, count the rooms from the outside and count them again from the inside, and see if the numbers match. Tap the wall at the end of a hallway that feels a foot too short. Lift the cap off the newel post at the bottom of the stairs, because the people who built these places did not want to be found, and they were very, very good at it. Tell me in the comments if your family's old house had one. I want to know if the priest hole gets more love than the Prohibition bar, and if anyone reading this has ever tapped a wall, heard the hollow, and found out their house had been keeping a secret all along.